Chapter 9. The Bear. Emerging from her hut one clear morning, Rachel found her vegetable garden was wild and overgrown, as though years had passed. Incredulous, the wise woman, who seemed even more wizened and white-haired than before, knelt by a pumpkin vine as thick as her arm and green with life, weighted with the husks of withered pumpkins. Rachel pulled them off in a pile. Thoughtfully she rubbed the vine, and a new pumpkin sprouted, swelling in its ribbed orange husk till it was big enough to harvest. Yes, she could still do it. Then, curious to see if she could do something new, Rachel turned and rubbed the earth the tips of her fingers. They tingled with heat. Several minutes passed. No, thought Rachel, nothing new has come out of all this suffering. She shifted from kneeling to crouching and brushed the dirt from her knees. Something caught her eye. The earth began to turn over and spill itself, and a small green frond poked forth. Rachel smiled. The frond grew at an extraordinary rate, seeming to pump itself out of the ground until it was as big as the other vine. Half a dozen pumpkins emerged from its green flesh, first as buds, then round and golden from their green packets. Full of joy, Rachel raised her arms and opened her mouth to call her pigeons and ravens and sylvans, but no matter how she tried, no sound would come. I see, she thought. I have developed a new power, but my body is weak and my lips are wordless. Irina and Durell were curled up together sleeping when they heard the ground beneath them tremble. Irina looked out of the cave and saw the air was pale and silvery. Dawn was coming, but Shekhar and the Torg and the rest of the pack had not returned from the hunt. What was making the earth rumble? She shook Durell awake, and the pair ran to the den's opening to look out. Not far away was a huge brown bear. The bear looked tired and starving. He had smelled milk and little animals, and he knew at last he could feel his painfully empty belly. He staggered towards the mouth of the den, paw over paw, his massive head swinging, his mouth open and drooling. Durell ran out of the cave, snarling, and lifting his lips into a horrifying red grimace. He growled at Irina. I'll protect the pups. You must run. No, I want to stay. You can't help. You have no teeth and no claws. With a tremendous bellow, the bear sprang forward. Durell leapt to his hind legs and grazed the bear's coat with his sharp claws, then sank his teeth into the bear's neck. The bear leapt backwards with a howl of pain. Irina had never seen Durell like this. His eyes were glazed as though ice had formed over them, and his teeth were smeared with blood. Run, he cried again. The bear nosed Irina and made a lunging side swipe at her. Durell leapt again, hurling his strong young body with all his might against the meat. They became a blurred mess of brown and grey fur, teeth, claws, groans and shrieks. Irina crouched low, her head back, like a wolf, with its ears flattened against its head. Run! Howled Durell, and a hot fear coursed through Irina. On all fours, she ran blindly into the forest. Her knees and palms hurt, and she struggled. She struggled to stay upright. Her tough, bare feet moved swiftly. The grunts and snarls and teeth gnashing of the wolf and the bear echoed in her ears, along with the terrible yelps from the pups. She was aware of Amicus flying above as she raced on and on. Irina ran beyond the forest into an unfamiliar open place with no trees, covered in green grass, a meadow. She kept running past grazing goats and sheep till she came to a road. In the distance she heard a galloping sound over the dirt. Irina knew what horses were. She had seen humans riding through the forest. Like wolves, she was frightened of humans. She tried to hide herself behind a grassy hillock on the roadside. Hoofbeats came, louder and louder. The sound was deafening. It seemed to be coming over, almost upon her, and then it passed. Irina looked up and saw a group of men dressed in clothes red as geraniums, each holding a branch with a bright flap of material attached to it. Their bags were loaded with sticks, edged with feathers. She had seen those before, arrows. The farmers used them to strike down animals. Irina was mesmerized by the shimmering gold fabric of one man's cloak. It seemed to have been made from the sun. Accompanying the men was a boy. Cautiously, Irina raised her head to get a better look. The boy was staring straight at her. Irina's mouth went dry with fear. She stayed very still, wishing she could turn herself into grass or a rock. The boy seemed fascinated by her. She had never looked directly at a human before. How round and flat his face was compared with a wolf. Irina trembled. Would he tell the other humans she was there? The boy made a curious shape with his mouth, curving his lips upwards. It looked like he was waiting for something from her. She glared, her fingernails digging into the rock. The strange curve left the boy's mouth. His head drooped, and he turned away. Sadness. She had seen that gesture with the wolves. The boy gave his horse a gentle kick. Irina waited, frightened the men and horses would swing back around and come to get her. When they didn't, she relaxed a little. The only thing that touched her was a small yellow butterfly resting on her hand. She was thirsty. Fluttering above was the friendly shape of Amicus, and she trailed after him, knowing he would lead her to water. The pain in her feet made her cry as she swayed wearily through fields of goats and cows to a small brook. She knelt at the water's edge, under the shade of a soft green willow. The shade was welcome, and the brook made a sweet bubbling noise. She lowered her face to the cool water and saw the pretty undines beneath the surface. Irina drank and drank, then fell into a deep, exhausted sleep, her cheek pressed against a small mound of moss at the brook's edge.